Dr. Ruth?
Okay, well, actresses are always looking for the next role or a role, and as they get older, particularly. But my husband and I go to theater whenever we can. We went to Great Barrington and saw We knew that, this play, we had heard about it, and unfortunately, we couldn't go the night that she actually was there. But in any case, as soon as it started, we looked at each other knowing this is a role I would like to do. I could not only I could identify with her in many, many ways. Um, but besides that, I just knew this is a role for me, and I happened to be close to the right height because that was part of it. In fact, what they did, the first person actually who did it was Deborah Jo Rupp. They built all the scenery around her to make her look smaller because she's not that short. And so everything was built for her, chairs, bigger, everything to make her look small. Anyway, I knew that this is something I wanted to do, and I was able to reach Pierre Lehoux, who's what she calls her Minister of Communication. In fact, he does everything for her. I just watched another of her yesterday, a TV show I hadn't seen, a new one. And she said that she doesn't know how to do anything. I'm not too good myself, really. But she said he does everything for her. She talks, he writes, he does the computer, he does everything. So I knew someone who knew him, and that's how I was able to contact him. And I said, we're from New York. It would be easy for us if we could ever go just to see her. Anyway, he said, he called back, he emailed back to say, Dr. Ruth would like for us to have lunch with her at Sardi's. So that was my husband, Ken Butler, who's the the head of Mansfield Music and Art Society, which is where I did this. So the three of us went to New York and we had lunch with her. And that was a wonderful experience. I had read so much about her, had seen her I was subscribed to her YouTube channel. I mean, I watched her over and over again, listened to her. So when she came in and sat down and started to talk to us, it really wasn't much of a surprise. She was more interested in us than really. I wanted to ask her questions, but she doesn't talk that much about her personal life. In fact, she didn't want to do this play. The reason she got to do it, she had gone to see a play called Freud's Last Session off Broadway. And one of the actors, the main actor, in fact, I believe, who played Freud, asked her whether he called her back and said he would love for her to do this play that Mark St. Germain is writing, would like to write for her. She refused, and it took a while before she finally agreed to it. She said everybody knows all about her, but they didn't know everything. So anyway, that's how this all started, and so I've watched, as I say, many, many shows. A documentary that was at Coolidge Corner that was excellent. She's done many documentaries herself. That was the most surprising thing I found about her from reading some of her books. She's written 35 books with either Pierre, yeah, well, all of them, I think, with him. And she's also done many documentaries, many set in Israel and other places too. And I found that was just fascinating. I mean, she admits that because she became such a celebrity and so famous, it was easier for her to do what she wanted and get people to help her and do what she wanted. Still, it's incredible. So that's just some of the things that she does. She travels around the world. She goes to Israel every single year. She works for women's causes, for Jewish causes. Um, and The interesting thing about her, too, is that even though she's a sex therapist, she calls it really a psycho-sex therapist because the family is so important to her and relationships. So that's pretty much, I think, I don't know, what I can tell you just in this short time. And so after, if you have questions, please ask me. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, but I'll try to answer what I can. So what happened is she, was growing up in Germany, and anyway, After Kristallnacht, night of broken glass, she was walking down the street with her father, and they were stopped by a neighbor who said, "We have to get out of here." And her father said, "No, nothing's going to happen. Tomorrow is a Catholic holiday." Well, the next day, the SS came to their apartment, big men with shiny boots. Her mother cried. Her grandmother took money from the hem of her skirt. She put it in one of the hands of the men. She said, "Please take good care of my husband, of my her father." They led my father to a truck. I looked out to try to see if there were other people, but it was covered, so I couldn't see. My father must have sensed me staring at him because he turned to look at me and smiled. And then he stepped into the truck and was gone. They took him to a work camp. There were no concentration camps yet. They held a conference in Evian, France, and the question was what to do with the Jews from Germany, and the answer was almost nothing. The Netherlands, Switzerland, Belgium, and France each agreed to accept children, 300 apiece. Only Britain would take more, this from a population of over 500,000 Jewish children. My mother got a call from a Jewish organization saying there was room for me on the Kindertransport. After that, I saw my mother, my grandmother, hug for the first time. I had been selected to go to Switzerland, one of the 300 Jews. All had to be German Jews under 16 years of age, either an orphan or with a father in a camp. If my father had been home, I would not have been on that train. I would not be here today. My mother and my grandmother took me to the Frankfurt Hauptbahnhof. I had one suitcase with my doll Matilda in it. Matilda had blonde painted hair, blue eyes, a little dress with flowers, and a tiny turtle stamped on her back. My mother lifted me up. She said, "Be good, study hard. You will like Switzerland. We will see you soon." My grandmother said, "Oh, you will get so much chocolate. Always smile and trust in Almighty God." And then I was on the train. I looked out the window. I saw my mother, my grandmother running alongside, saying goodbye. My grandmother looked so old running. I would not cry. I smiled at them like my papa smiled at me so they would not be sad. I am a Yekka. A Yekka is a German Jew. Yekkas don't cry. We keep our emotions here. Think of a duck gliding peacefully along the lake, but underneath the water, that duck never stops paddling. Well, so I opened up my suitcase. There was my doll, Matilda, and a chocolate bar my grandmother packed, and one more thing, a washcloth. I'm not sure why I took that, but maybe because it had my initials sewn on it. I wish I had taken more, but I guess I thought we'd be home soon. There was a little girl next to me, Marga. She was crying. She was only 5 years old. I knew she needed my doll, so I gave her Matilda. The washcloth I still have. When we got to this apartment, I packed it away where I wouldn't see it. Why look at it again? It would only make me sad. There was one person who could make anybody's sadness go away. That was Shirley Temple. She was a little princess with her dimples and her curls, and she could sing and dance. I loved to dance too, and nobody minded as long as I didn't sing. Shirley Temple made everyone around her happy, and that is what I was taught to do. We were sent to a Swiss orphanage for children. It was called Bortheim, which means place to wait. On the first night, we slept in the second story of a barn. There was a hole in the floor where the heat came up, so naturally I looked down. The staff of Wertheim was opening up our suitcases. The women made fun of our clothes. They ate the chocolate bar my grandmother packed. We thought they were there to take care of us. They thought we were there to be the servants to their Swiss children. Give them their food, wash their clothes, clean their toilets. We were ordered to stay away from those children like we would infect them. In a way, this was not a bad thing. None of us knew anyone. We had nobody to turn to except each other who had been on the kinder transport. We became as close as brothers and sisters. Maybe to this we seemed too happy. One night, Fräulein Rissenfeld, one of the women in charge, got us together. She said, Kinder, you must stop asking me every day if I have a letter for you. If I have it, you'll get it. It is time you faced your situation clearly. We did not say to your parents, we want your children. They gave you away. Do you think if they loved you, they would have done that? They are Schlangeneltern, snakes that eat their young. You should be grateful they write to you at all. Remember, you are only here because of the charity of the Spitz people. Remember how lucky you are. Well, we were lucky. How could we complain? We were alive. I have a picture of me. I don't have it now, but I have it. I'm standing on a ladder. I'm trying to look tall. I am smiling because for the first time in my life, I had fallen in love. His name was Walter. Walter was a younger man. I was 13. He was 12. He was good looking. He was intelligent. And he sang to me the first American song I ever heard. You're my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Oh, Walter, he was so clever. He figured out a way that we could send letters, notes to each other. They never found out. He wrote, Dear Carol, a baby, do you know that a baby robin can eat 14 feet of worms a day? Your friend Walter. Oh, Walter was so romantic. Having a boyfriend meant everything. I thought I was ugly and short and stupid, and no man would ever be interested in me. But Walter was. That made me happy in a way I never felt before. No, we had a school at wartime, and we had one teacher, Ignaz Mandel. He had a humpback and played the violin. The women made fun of him, but not me. He encouraged us to write, to keep a diary, to keep notes, to keep dates. He said the dates are the anchors for your memories. Without dates, you don't know who you were. I wrote a few things. July 20th, 1941. God, where are you? Will I ever see Mama and Papa again? I know that I must not lose hope, but it is not easy. What does it mean to be a Jew? If you don't think of us, I won't think of you even on your holidays. July 29th. My romance with Walter is through forever. We do nothing but quarrel. I told him today to comb his hair straight back, but he insists on combing it sideways. Enough, it's over. August 30th, 1941, a letter from Aunt Ida. Aunt Ida was my mother's younger sister. She wrote from Isika labor camp near Lublin. She said, I am always hungry. November 2nd, a woman came to the school and talked about the Auschwitz concentration camp. December 8th, 1941, America is now in the war against Japan. Bread will probably be rationed. Well, that's all I wrote about. I don't know why. All I knew was that America had food, Shirley Temple, wonderful songs and dances. We began to be taught songs that we didn't understand. We sang Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy and wondered who Boogie Woogie was. What we were taught was Zionism, Palestine. When the war is over, and it will be, Palestine wants you. Together we can build a homeland that will be safe for you and your children. Palestine is your country, Walter, yours, Carola. Palestine needs you to come home. They promised that if I went with them, I could learn to be a teacher of the Jewish children. Now, I always wanted to be a doctor, but I knew that was impossible. I might as well have wanted to be Shirley Temple. And my grandmother told me I should be a kindergarten teacher because I could fit so nicely into their chairs. And then The war was over. It was a Friday evening. We were finishing our meal. There was Fräulein Riesenfeld on the phone. She said, "Are you certain?" And she hung up. There she was. She said, "Kinder, I have wonderful news. The war is over. The Allies have won." Well, there should have been shouting and cheers, but nothing. Total silence. We were each thinking about our parents. What now? Are they alive? What's going to happen to us? The Red Cross sent lists of names of people who had survived the concentration camps. Fräulein Riesenfeld read them to us, name by name, and we held our breath. 2 weeks after the war ended, she finished reading. We didn't recognize one name. She told us to go back to work, except Walter. She said he should come in. I waited right outside the door so I could hear. She said, "Walter, we have news. Your parents were sent to Buchenwald. They are not among the survivors." Walter stood. He looked past her. He started laughing. He laughed and kept laughing till she slapped him. I don't know. Maybe she had to. I didn't care. I rushed in there. I said, "Don't you touch him. I got a letter from my parents. They have a little house in Tel Aviv. They are safe. My mama, my papa, my grandmother. My father has a job on the farm. Everyone can come and live with us. Walter can come." She said, "Carola, I never saw such a letter." Oh, of course not. It was lies. Lies I had to go on. So things happened after that, of course. I was sent to Israel, to Palestine, and then I lived on a kibbutz, Nahalal, and then I went to Jerusalem. A couple came. They said to me, "Carola, if you come to Jerusalem, we can help you. You could get into school and you could learn to be a teacher." I said, How could I go? I was just 16. I had no money. I didn't speak Hebrew. I said, "All right, I'll be packed in 20 minutes. Oh, and I was into Jerusalem. Well, not only did I get into college, but I got a scholarship. I started classes as the war started between the Arab and Israel, each wanting Palestine for their own. In 1947, the United Nations voted to divide the country into a Jewish state, an Arab state, and a small international zone in between. The good news? No. Almost immediately came the guerrilla wars, and not just soldiers, civilians like me. I wanted to defend the Jewish people. I joined the Haganah, the Jewish Underground Army. I learned to put together, take apart machine guns with my eyes closed. I learned to teach arts and crafts by day, throw hand grenades at night. That's how I learned to shoot. I am a very good, sharp shooter. I was short and fast, so I was used as a messenger because there was less of me to shoot at. At nights, I stood on top of the roof with my rifle, overlooking the barricade at the entrance to the city, where the Israelis stopped and checked every car that entered. I had been on surveillance for just 3 weeks. I was rushing home to the hostel where I was living. When I got to the door of my room, the sirens went off. Well, we were told then we had to go down into the basement and wait. So I thought, well, maybe I could do my homework. Who knew how long we'd be down there? When I reached the lobby, it was June 4th, 1948. It was my 20th birthday. The shrapnel hit the walls, plaster fell from the ceiling, a girl fell on my right, dead, then a soldier, then another girl. There must have been another explosion because I was thrown into the wall. When I sat up, my friend Hannah Laura was opening up my laces on my shoes. I said, "Hannah Laura, what are you doing?" And then I looked down, I had blood everywhere, cuts. I said, "Hannah Laura, do I have to die?" They took me into an ambulance. I had shrapnel dug all over my body, the largest piece in my neck. My feet and legs were cut. The top of my right foot was blown off. Well, Dr. Eli said I was lucky I didn't lose both feet. But he operated, and they brought me into a room that used to be a cloister. So many wounded men on bunks, there was no place for me. But I was so small, they could put me into a bookshelf, and that's where I stayed. Oh, some of the men were injured so badly. One had lost both hands from a grenade, another was blinded, but we took care of each other. So our morale was high. My morale was the highest because I was the only woman in a room with all men. I could have recuperated for years. It took me months to learn to walk again, but thanks to Dr. Eli, I did. And thanks to Eli, I got an even better present. It was thanks to Dr. Eli I met David. David was a soldier stationed near Jerusalem. Well, okay. Back to myself. Those are my two excerpts. I could tell you many other things, but I know that a time is a limited. I'm not sure how much time, and I'm not sure how much time you want to. You might want to know how Dr. Ruth first learned about sex. She was 10 years old. And I found a copy of a book that my parents had to put into the closet. So I got a stool and I climbed. I risked my neck to learn the facts of life. So that's how. It's a very difficult thing to decide when to have sex for the first time. I decided to in Nahalal at the kibbutz. I remember it still. I can't tell you who it was with though, because we're still friends with his wife and him. And I go to Israel, they come here, so I can't tell you. But I can tell you it was wonderful. And it was beautiful because we were so much in love. And that's why the first time was so beautiful. Okay, so that's pretty much, well, those are two or three excerpts from Becoming Dr. Ruth. Actually, they changed the title. The beginning, the first title was Dr. Ruth All the Way, which she laughed when she told me about that. She thought that was funny herself. But they changed it. And Dr. Ruth is now 91 or 2. And her joie de vivre, as she puts it, is wonderful, and that's how she lives every day with joie de vivre, joy of love and of living. So maybe people have something they'd like to ask.
Anybody have any questions?
Nice.
You can either unmute yourself and ask or put it in your chat box and
Just
we'll
unmute yourself and ask.
Continue.
Oh,
Oh,
I could. You see, we didn't know how. I didn't know how much time really I could do the whole play, but that's an hour and a half, so we're not going to do that.
I could sit and listen to you forever. I mean, totally,
us.
I have fallen in.
Yeah.
We all have.
It's all right. Well, let me see. All right.
What city was she born in?
Okay, she was born in Frankfurt, Germany.
Oh,
And
Frankfurt.
so she actually went from Frankfurt to Israel, well, Palestine at the time. Then she went to France, and then to the United States. So, there's she's lived in 4 countries, and always in Washington Heights when she came here. Yes, go ahead. Oh, go ahead. Somebody, you were going to say more.
When did she come here?
I'm sorry. What?
When did she come to America?
Okay, so she was, let's see, it was her 20th birthday in, now I'm not sure the exact year.
48 was her 20th birthday, I think.
Right, it was
47.
1948. She was born in 1928.
So in 48, she was 20.
Right, she was 20. She was probably 30. I'm not positive on the date that she actually came. Oh yeah, no, I'm not. I can tell you right now. It was 1956.
Oh, did she stay in Israel
Oh.
before did she stay in Israel before she came here, Alice?
No, no. What happened is David, the man that she married, she did marry him. He decided that he wanted to be a doctor. Well, he was going to be a doctor. And they had no medical schools in Israel. So they had to go to Paris. That's where they went, to France. And
Oh.
then, and so he was there. She became director of a Jewish kindergarten when she was there. She went to the Sorbonne. And then she decided she didn't want to, he wanted to go back to Israel. That's what happened. That was his home. And she didn't. She wanted to get an education, so she asked for divorce. He said yes.
Oh.
And then she met her next husband at a cafe in Paris after her divorce from David. And she started a love affair, Dan, his name was, and she started a wonderful love affair with him. And then what happened is in 1956, the German government gave her money for education that was lost to her when when the Nazis took over and she had to stop schooling. So she had never asked them for anything, but here was money. And so she knew that she said, here was money and I knew what to do with it. She said, Dan, let's go to America. And she knows he loved clothes. She said, I'll buy you clothes. We'll go. Okay, so when they got to America, the first thing they did was get an apartment. They needed a cheap room. They got one in Washington Heights, where she still lives to this day.
Really?
And it wasn't
Okay.
until very recently that
Wow.
she redid it. She lived in the same, and she still does live in the same apartment. In fact, when this play begins,
Wow.
she's packing in order to move across town in New York. And then she doesn't go. And but that's the premise of this play. In reality, it never happened. She was never going to go. But I guess they decided they could do that. She always lived in New York, and she has a private practice. She has taught at Yale, at Princeton. She teaches at Columbia. Even to this day, she teaches a class in sociology in the family. So then when she came here, they sailed on the boat. She in the newspaper, the first thing they did was get a newspaper, of course, the Aufbau, a German Jewish newspaper, and she saw an advertisement for at Columbia for the new school they would no. Not Columbia, for the new school for social research. And they were giving a scholarship for an orphan of the Holocaust, which she considers herself. She immediately went there, applied, they gave her the scholarship, and so she was able to go to school. She eventually got a master's degree. She wanted a doctorate, but, and then she, so she did that too. She also got a doctorate eventually. It's quite incredible. And she had to write a thesis, and her thesis was Orphans of the Holocaust. And that's what she considers herself. So
When was the third husband? When was the third husband?
Third husband, okay, she met him skiing. That's Fred. And Fred, she was married to him for 36 years until he died. She divorced Dan. What happened with Dan? She didn't marry him first. They came to the United States. Eventually, she got pregnant. As soon as she got pregnant, they got married. She had a little girl, Miriam, her first child, and when Miriam was a year old, they got a divorce. She decided that they didn't have anything except that he was good looking. They had good sex. That's what she says. They had a wonderful physical relationship, but without any mental stimulation, you could sleep through it, which is what she says. So she got another divorce, and she and Miriam lived in the same apartment. Their rent, they had to pay their rent. She and neighbors took turns babysitting so that she could, well, all of them, but so she could get a job, she could go to school. She got a job at Harris Research towels. She would call people. She had to call people to find out what color towels they liked. And she says that it was like she thought it was, but she figured now when she someday she says she'll be rich enough to have a Frigidaire and a maid once a week. And so that's what happened. She anyway, and she went to school. Then on a skiing trip, that's when she met. She rode up to the mountain with another a friend of hers who was up, and he was so tall that it was a terrible trip up. When they got up to the top of the mountain, they introduced him to her to the president of the ski club, and that was I was going into Dr. Ruth. That was her next husband and last husband, and they had wonderful marriage. And he had a couple of strokes, I believe. So anyway, but that's how she met him. As soon as she met him, she knew. She said that she came home. She called her friend. She said, "I just met the man I'm going to marry." He said it was the biggest ski accident he ever had because they were very, very different people. So, and then they decided to have another child, and they had Joel, her son. They were both raised. Uh, they went to kibbutz summer camps. She says no spoiled children, no pony rides. They were raised with Zionism and idealism. And then eventually, when they were in school, she got a job at Planned Parenthood, and that's how the sex education. That's how all that all started. She worked there, and then she decided she wanted to teach sex education. Um, and she listened to a wonderful speaker who was had a sex therapist clinic in Cornell. She asked if she could go and observe. They said yes, and that was it. Her name was Helen Singer Kaplan. She had worked with Masters and Johnson and helped write their new sex therapy, and she said she was so good, spoke so well, and she had some of the same ideas. Um, so she asked she could observe. They said yes. She says she went. She sat behind this mirror watching her conduct sex therapy. She said they were totally relaxed. She said Shiva's a big square. She's very old fashioned. Her face was red through every session, but she went through the whole thing. She attended every session, and she decided what she really wanted was to be a sex therapist. And I think, as she says, part of the reason was because when she left home, she wasn't touched again really until Walter. And she realized later how much, well, what she had missed by that. And so a psychiatrist who she met or told her that it made sense that she would want to do that because it was so important to her, and when she realized how important it was to everybody. In fact, she collects dollhouses. She has 6 of them, and she says she never lets her grandchildren play with them because she puts the people and the furniture and everything where she wants it. They are as happy as she wants them to be. Everything stays where she wants. And it gave her, she felt control over her life that she lost. Because she had one dollhouse when she left home, of course, and then, lost that when she went to Switzerland. So anyway, there's lots more, of course, but as I say, So, anything else? Anything else I can tell you?
Anybody else have any questions? Greta? Unmute yourself, Greta.
Okay. Alice, how did you decide that you wanted to do Dr. Ruth impersonations?
Well, like I said, when we saw the play, my husband and I saw the play, and I knew right away that I wanted to do it. So I told Ken Butler, who is the director, he runs the whole theater in Mansfield. He said, yes, let's do it. We had to wait a couple of years for the rights because after it went to Broadway, then it went to other professional type theaters, and then it came to the community theaters. We asked Dr. Ruth if she would come and see it. she did see it in Great Barrington, and she has seen it. I know she saw it someplace else, but she was away. Uh, we were in touch with Pierre a lot. I asked him about my hair. He said, if you think she knows how she ever wore her hair or cares about it, it's a mess. All, don't worry about it. And she had told me, don't worry about that. Don't worry about what you wear. Don't worry about anything. Just me, not even the accent. But I knew I could do pretty much the accent. Um, but I knew it was somebody I wanted to do. I think she had such her ability and her desire to go on despite everything terrible that had happened to do. She lost her whole family in the Holocaust. They were all killed in the concentration camps. She survived only because of the kinder transport, and yet, when you think of what she accomplished, everything that she said it's her obligation. It's her obligation to do everything because she survived and 200,000 or uh, children did not. Um, so, anyway, it was a great, I knew that it was something I could do and that I'd like to do. I just had this feeling for her right away. I guess you do parts that you somehow they're in you. It's hard to do roles. I've done a lot of parts. It's hard to do ones that aren't in you at all and that you totally have to make up. Usually you find something about the person that you are. And of course, being Jewish was one of the things. Um, and then her ability to, I said I lost a child. And so I'm a grown up to 16 years ago. And so I think that was something also because of her, that she could go on just like I did, and I mean, you make a choice. So I don't know. I think those are the reasons.
Alice, did Dr. Ruth ever mention to you if there was a particular story when she was doing sex therapy that was in some way, very successful or interesting or different
Ah,
than the others?
yeah, she talks about well, it's funny. This one isn't, well, it's interesting. She was on, she was always guests on Dave Letterman and Johnny Carson. And she told David Letterman that there was this, when I do the show, I end with her show and people call in and I do the answers. So that's funny. I mean, that's fun. But one of the person wrote in and said that her his girlfriend liked to toss onion rings onto his erect penis before they had sex. And David Letterman walked off the set like he was shocked. But she said, really, did his show many, many times, and he always shows a plate of onion rings at the station breaks. So, and of course, I have to tell you that Ken and Mel and I ordered that when we went out after the first show. But anyway,
I'm going to have a problem eating onion rings after that one.
but somebody asked when I was watching her recently doing questions and answers with people, and a lot of the time she tells them, "Don't worry about that. You're young. You don't have to worry about that." And one of the big things now is she says she's very old-fashioned. She tells them that. And so relationships to her, because they asked her, she said, this going from one person to another, she doesn't think that that's good, that it's not satisfying, and it won't make you happy, that you need a relationship. Although she doesn't pass judgment on anybody. But a lot of the books, so I've read, like this one, Sex After 50, and I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of tips that she gives to people, things that may help women, other things that will help men, things that men don't like, that women like. Uh, Always turning something negative into positive. That's the big thing. Um, it's oh well, it's so many things. I don't think I could pick. Um, I don't know. I don't know.
Was there one thing that you learned in doing in studying and being a student of Dr. Ruth's and becoming her that was surprising or shocking to you that was
Um,
totally unexpected or had an impact on you for somehow?
I don't think there was anything unexpected because, in fact, when I met her, I had studied so much before I met her and watched so many of the things, read some of her books that really, when I met her, it was like I knew her already. And so I can't really, and even now, after I've watched her on shows, I don't. Well, I'll tell you what's amazing. Yeah. I guess the thing that was amazing the most, first of all, that she joined the Haganah and could shoot machine guns, and that she's a sharpshooter. In fact, when she does it, she takes her grandson to a county fair and shoots 5 bullets into the bullseye. I found that incredible. I found it incredible that she skied until she was like 86 years old. Uh, that there's that was the I guess that was something that I found that that was where I'm not like her. I was like her in a lot of ways, but where I'm not is how athletic in that sense that she is. I mean, I could play some games. I played basketball, but I never went skiing, and I've never. I never did those things, and I'm thinking, and she goes, on these hikes. That's how. In fact, that's when her husband decided to ask her to marry him, Fred, the last one, um, because they were hiking in the Catskills. And I'm thinking, well, Mel used to get me to do some of these things. It's true, he did. He had me climbing mountains. I was terrified all the time. But I don't think she was terrified. I think this was a normal thing for her. And I guess that's the thing that was amazing to me, the kinds of things that she did and still does.
I have a question here from Molly in Blumenthal. She wants to know, why did she go to France?
Oh, I said because there were no medical schools in Israel for David. He wanted to be a doctor. Why France? I don't know. She never says why she chose France as opposed to a different country. So I don't know. I don't know. But
Alice, I have another question. How
yeah.
easy was it for you to learn the accent?
Um, that wasn't that hard, and I'll tell you why. Well, the New York part is natural. That's for real. The French, I took a lot of French. Not that I can speak it, believe me. I mean, I managed when I went to France, sort of. But I could sort of do that. And the German, I didn't know the Israeli. I don't know their accent at all. And so that I couldn't, but I knew that she was known pretty much for German. In fact, she says that because people thought she sounded like Sigmund Freud. So it wasn't that hard. I mean, the whole thing was hard. It's 90-minute monologue. What's hard is you never stop talking. And even though in general I never stop talking, I, I can stop for a minute. When you do a one-woman show, you can't ever stop. And even when you're on the phone, it's still you. I have 5 phone calls. It's always me. And I think, oh, the phone is ringing. And then I think, what big deal? You're still going to keep talking. It's hard. That's the hardest thing, I think. So,
Well, we have I have 8:20. We started at 7:30.
not bad.
Um, I love that everybody is still on and still interested. And does everybody want more stories, more questions, or I don't want to cut anybody off from. I could just sit and listen to Alice all night long. So
Well, I'll tell you.
more. I'm getting more here. Okay.
Okay, I was hoping. No, Ken Butler wanted me to do this. I was supposed to do this, the whole show. I was supposed to do in April, so we know what happened there. Um, he wanted me to do this next month for streaming it, the whole show, just a small audience. But I don't know. I said I really didn't want to go in and do it in the theater, even with a small audience. I was nervous about that. So I don't know. I am probably going to do it as soon as we're allowed. As soon as we can, well, as soon as things get better, if that ever happens, sooner or later. So then I can let you know when I'm doing the whole show.
So Alice, I have a question here. Where in Switzerland did she live?
I don't think she ever said, let me see. I'm not sure that she ever said where it was. Let's see. I'm just going to look at the wartime. No, I don't think she ever said the place. I don't know where it was.
Well, before we go, can you do um, some impersonations of one of her phone calls, some of her phone?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we have a
That's why
Hang on a minute. Does any part of the show concern advice she gave to Miriam's camp?
Why what? She,
Does any part of the show concern advice? Does any part of the show concern? Wait a minute. Does any part of the show concern advice she gave to Miriam's camp? I don't know what Miriam's camp is.
I don't know what that, I'm not sure. I said that they both went to a kibbutz camps. Is that what?
I'm not sure. Ellie, do you want to unmute?
Just looked it up, by the way, and she lived in the small town of Haydn
Oh,
in
all right.
Switzerland.
In
Thank you,
Switzerland.
Trudy. And when was the last time you performed the show? Is a question.
Not that long ago. I did it at a few assisted living places, maybe a year ago. The funny thing, I did it in one group who had early Alzheimer's, early dementia, and I thought they will hate this or they won't, they'll be bored. And we also shortened it. So I left out a couple of things, not a lot, but enough so that it just wasn't the whole hour and a half. And when it was over, the first thing they said is, "What did you leave out?" And it was amazing. And they said, "Tell us what you left out." And I had to do the couple of little parts that I had left out, because I thought they're not that important. And then, because I thought they wouldn't be able to listen to all that, which I was wrong. But yeah, so I've done it like lots of little times like that. The last time in the theater, I don't know, a couple of years ago, wasn't that long ago, because I haven't been doing it all that. It's only 5 years that I've been doing it all together. The first time I did it was 5 years ago.
Can you give us 2 or 3 minutes of you answering her phone or
But
Dr.
that's
Ruth
why I
answering?
have the script. I have it all memorized, so of course I don't. But the call-ins, I have it because I don't have the part I don't memorize the part that's called into me.
Okay, so I have some more on the question.
Oh, all right.
It says Dr. Ruth gave sex advice to Miriam's
Oh,
Shomer Hatzair camp counselors. Is any of that part of the show? Part of the
no,
play?
no. Oh, that's interesting, though. Huh. I'll have to read that. Maybe it's in one of these books. She's written 35 books. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Some children's books, in fact. Okay, here. This is an example. I'll do the first one. This woman, somebody calls in. This is after the show was increased. It started out with 15 minutes and then was increased to an hour. Okay. Dr. Westheimer, our daughter walked in on my husband and me while we were having sex on our living room floor. Tell me, how old is your daughter? 5. She was afraid and started crying, but, well, you know what? Maybe that's not a good one. That's too long.
Oh, no, I think it probably was.
Oh, you want to hear? All right. Okay, I'll finish it. Let's see. I can always do two. I could do two. Um, she was afraid and started crying, but my husband just crawled behind the couch. She still won't talk about it. Neither will my husband. What should I do? I'm glad you're asking this because it happens to many parents of small children. The first thing is that making love on floors and tables in any room in the house is wonderful as long as there are locks on the doors. The next thing is that you should take your daughter aside and say, honey, the other day when you came in, Daddy wasn't hurting Mommy. Daddy and Mommy made love and it felt good. Use that term, made love. If there is moaning and groaning, it's just because it felt good, and tell your husband to get out from behind the couch. I will thank you. Bye-bye. So that's the first call. Um, Here's one, let's see, wait a minute. I'll just say one that's, oh, here's one. Dr. Ruth. I don't know, she doesn't know. I get mixed up. Dr. Ruth, I've been going out with a guy for almost a year and I like him a lot. The only thing I don't like is that he wants me to have oral sex with him. I just can't do it. The worst thing is that he loves to give me oral sex and I love it. I feel so selfish. What should I do? Whipped cream or chocolate sauce, whatever is your favorite, rub it on his penis and see if you like it then. If you still feel the same way, forget about the oral sex and get ice cream to go with the whipped cream or the chocolate sauce. So I have to tell you, Mel's barber came to see the show. I didn't know that, but he did. And then Mel, so I went in to introduce myself to him, and the first he said, whipped cream on the penis. It was funny. But yeah, there are funny parts in it, besides that other things when she talks about that. But yeah, I have to say, I didn't hear her when she was first on because she started at midnight. So I was either in school or teaching or something, was something where I couldn't be listening to her at midnight, you know. But I knew about her and I had heard about her. I knew who she was, of course, but you know.
I
But
remember listening to her show sometimes when I would be coming home late and driving the car, listening to her on the radio and laughing so hard it was almost dangerous to drive.
yeah, I remember too. It was an amazing thing. But she says that you know she thinks that she was not threatening. That's why people listen to her. Because you think why you know here was someone who you know was this little woman giving all this advice about sex, but
Well,
still,
well, Alice, I'm sure we all agree this was really amazing. We're approaching an hour, and I think we all agree that we could probably sit here at least another hour, but we're not going to. We're very appreciative. Everyone is applauding. Yay.
well,
Uh,
thank you, and thank you for inviting me. I've had fun.
It was a pleasure. And before everybody goes, I just want to do a plug for our uh, chapter book club. It's virtual now, still free, and it's going to be actually tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to noon. The book that's being reviewed by Margie Maidman is The Liar. But we all know you don't have to read the book. You can Zoom in and chat and meet the lovely women that are participating. I will post the Zoom link on our Sharon-Stoughton Hadassah Facebook page. You don't have to know anything special to get on it. It'll be right there, and I'll have the Zoom link. And Molly Ann Blumenthal, who's right there in the middle of your screen if you're in gallery view, will be there to join you. We thank you all for coming on to yet another one of our fabulous programs by the fabulous Judy Gansberg. And if there's anything that you'd like more of or any ideas for more programs, we're happy to take your,
All ideas accepted. Just
well, yes,
possibly
welcome.
get them done. We have Sarah Shapiro coming on to do a challah baking in a couple of weeks, in August 18th, was it? I can't remember.
18th or 19th,
Yeah, something there. It'll start, Judy will start posting something.
as soon as we know.
Interested in giving it a try. Sarah Shapiro is known for this.
She's the president of the Needham chapter, just if you don't know who Sarah is. So the fact that she has time to do that is pretty remarkable. And maybe a second trivia night, maybe?
I'm working on it. I work all afternoon.
Yeah. We're busy. We're trying to keep everybody entertained and mentally stimulated during these quarantine times. So we hope that you'll stay in touch. You can always like and share our Sharon-Stoughton Hadassah Facebook page. And this is recorded, so it will be posted on our Sharon-Stoughton Hadassah YouTube channel if you want to view it again. If there's no further questions, I'm going to say thank you very much. And
Thank
good
you,
night.
Judy. Both Judys.
you,
Thank
Al.
you.
for another great
Thank you.
program.
Can you
Thank
send
you.
us a link to the YouTube page?
There is no, it'll be on, you want to like and share our Sharon-Stoughton
Yeah, I
Hadassah
do.
Facebook, and I will post uh, the book club Zoom on there, and I will post the connection to the YouTube channel as well.
Oh, okay, thank
And
you.
you can just put in, go to YouTube and put
Yeah.
it in Sharon-Stoughton Hadassah, and it'll be right there. It's easy, easy
Okay.
peasy. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe,
Okay.
be well,
Okay.
and
Thank
we'll
you.
see you
Both
soon.
Judys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you,
See you
Alice.
next time.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So glad I
Thank
met
you.
you both.
Nice
Really.
to meet you.
Pleasure.
I met you before, but you know.
Well, we really met now.
Right.
Good night, everybody.
Okay. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Lila
Lila
Tove.
Tove.
Lila Tove.
Funny place. We got to talk about that certificate. Good.
Okay. Leave.
Okay. And Myra's there from the Plymouth chapter. Myra, you didn't sign in, did you?
Here we go.
Didn't get
All
everybody.
right. Can you hear me, Judy?
Yes, I can hear you, Myra.
Okay. I apologize. I've been very technically challenged today.
That's
And I had
okay.
trouble getting in the Zoom, and then I finally got in, and then I was having trouble getting out. So my husband's in the hospital, so I'm distracted. But it's
Oh, no.
cool. This was great. I'm so glad I got in, and I heard most of it. She was wonderful, and you guys are all outstanding. All the programs you're doing and all, and I'm trying to encourage my Plymouth people to take advantage of what's out there.
Everyone's welcome.
But yeah, so I will keep forwarding your things along.
Thank
And
you.
although the region does too, which is great. So all
Thank
we have
you.
to do is figure out how to get Plymouth people to read. Act on
That's
it.
always a problem.
But
That's the
I'm
challenge.
realizing I only have so much that I can do in the world these
I
days.
know. And,
All right, well, thank you. I think I will figure out how to sign off here. Okay, and
all right. Thank you, Myra.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. Hi, Marilyn.
I don't think she's there.
Um,
Well, I didn't get the email with the,
oh, that's strange. All right, I'll resend it just to make sure that it's what you want.
I'd like to have it go out ASAP.
I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to close down. I'll
Okay.
send it to you, and then I can send it right out.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks. But that's all been recorded.